let's not forget that in previous occasions there have been sort of mass funerals, and that has been translated within a very short space of time into mass protests. I mean, what you're seeing is one particular constituency in the Islamic Republic, of which, even if you accept that the regime has, say, 20% support, which is what most people would now sort of accept in terms of turnout at elections and this sort of thing, you're still talking about several million. So
let's go to Tehran now, where the funeral of Iran's late supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is taking place. The Times World Affairs editor Catherine Philp is there and sent us this voice message.
So I'm in the middle of Tehran and some huge crowds who are walking along in the funeral procession for the late supreme leader who was killed in the airstrike by the Israelis on the first day of the war. Most people are carrying a mixture of flags, the red flag of vengeance with the fist of Khamenei on it. He's said to have died with his fist clenched. That's become a symbol of resistance here. And also carrying the Iranian flag and the Supreme Leader's portrait. The mood is much like the funeral ceremony in the mosque. It has become... the tone has turned from mourning and crying into calls for revenge. And there's a lot of posters around saying things like, kill Trump, Trump must die, there will be blood.
Well, that was the Times World Affairs editor Catherine Philp there, reporting live for us this morning. Let's talk to Iran expert Ali Ansari, Professor of Modern History at St Andrews University. Good morning.
Morning.
Now, people will have seen some of the pictures. We heard there from Catherine about the tone shifting of the people attending. Do we have an idea of the scale of this? Is it what we would have expected to see?
Well, it's difficult to make these assessments. Of course, the government is claiming that 12 to 20 million people would come out, and I shudder to think how one would make an assessment of that sort of number and how one would logistically put that sort of crowd into place. I suspect you may reach, if it's comparable with previous funerals, say Khomeini's funeral back in 1989, we estimated then was about 2 million, but that was out in the major cemeteries, and it was a major plane and people gathered over time. I think when the President Raisi died, you had several 100,000. I mean, I suspect the figures are probably going to be in the, if you look at the supporters of the regime, it will be somewhere in the million, in the million mark figure over the week. I mean, it's an extraordinarily long funeral, as to be said, quite unorthodox as far as Islamic norms are concerned, to be doing it quite in this way. But it's difficult to make a realistic assessment. And I think when you're in the middle of it, of course, you see these vast crowds, and you'll get a sense of size. But sooner or later, people will make assessments when they have aerial photography. And unfortunately, one of the problems they've had is they've clearly been using AI to inflate the figures. So that's been pretty apparent, and they've done it in a fairly clumsy way. So that doesn't help their propaganda.
And you say it's unorthodox, even sort of without the AI element of this. What do you mean by that?
Well, normally, if when any Muslim dies, you're meant to bury them within 24 hours. And I sort of understand, obviously, they had difficulties in obviously getting him buried as quickly as that. But to have him, basically they had his memorial service in an Armenian church, as it happens, well before they actually buried him. But now they're planning to go on some sort of like nationwide tour and even take the body to Iraq. I mean, it's quite an extraordinary way to carry. I mean, they never did that with Khomeini, for instance, the founding father of the revolution. So this is a very ceremonial affair. It's very performative. I mean, they're trying to take. I personally actually think they're trying to take some lessons from the Queen's funeral actually here. So they're trying to impress, and it's not actually what you would call an Orthodox or a standard Muslim funeral.
You mean the Queen's funeral here?
Yes. I mean, if you look at some of the ceremonial and the army and the way they're presenting the sort of the martial qualities of it. I mean, it's a very poor caricature, obviously, but they're trying to turn it. They've said it's going to be the greatest funeral in history. They said, and they'll look at these things, and they always look at things in the West, I mean, they held the funeral on the 4th of July for a start, which was intended, obviously, to be a slap in the face to the Americans. But then, all the military paraphernalia they've put around it is very reminiscent of what you might find here.
Well, and also quite Trumpian, the greatest funeral
yes,
ever.
Absolutely.
Yeah, straight out of that playbook. He was obviously a spiritual leader. He also had masses of executive power.
Yes.
And responsibility, presumably, for the massacres of protesters that happened in Iran. And, we spent a long time talking about those before this conflict began. Has there not been any kickback from people, protesters, those who
I think there has.
Yeah.
No, I think there has. Again, people will be caught up by the current moment. But let's not forget that in previous occasions there have been sort of mass funerals, and that has been translated within a very short space of time into mass protests. I mean, what you're seeing is one particular constituency in the Islamic Republic, of which, even if you accept that the regime has, say, 20% support, which is what most people would now sort of accept in terms of turnout at elections and this sort of thing, you're still talking about several million. So, they will rally that crowd round, and there'll be people who will just be interested. There'll be people who will be fascinated by the whole process and whatever. But it's very difficult, and I think it's a huge mistake to try and turn this into some sort of referendum on the Islamic Republic, because it just simply doesn't work, and it hasn't worked in the past. Mood changes very, very quickly. And a lot of this is extremely shallow in terms of loyalty, and a lot of people would have stayed away. I mean, there were some videos. I will kid you not, videos of people who were leaving the city to go to the north, to the Caspian, to get away from it all. And some people were dancing. I mean, there were people dancing when the funeral starts. So, I mean, it's that sort of... So there is an element of kickback, but of course it's not something that the regime is going to want to promote. And when you send people to, let's not forget, journalists going over, it's a fairly curated sort of scene that they're going to see. They're not being allowed really to go around and talk to ordinary people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very, very difficult, and I think we need to be acutely aware of that.
Ali, can I ask you finally, obviously the current supreme leader, it has not been anywhere to be seen.
No.
Do we know, is he dead? Do we know anything about him?
Well, what I know, and all I know is, what we can hear about it is that he's not dead, but he's certainly not in a fit state to actually appear in public. I don't believe it's because they're worried about assassination attempts. I think it's basically that he's been very badly injured, and he's probably not in a fit state to really be seen at the moment. His brother's turned up, as it happened, but interestingly, he didn't even turn up at his wife's funeral, and his wife's funeral was a private affair. So it's not that it's not that would have been public and vulnerable to sort of any form of attack. I think they've got a serious problem here in terms of how the leadership develops, because a supreme leader that just doesn't turn up is going to be a difficulty for them.
Ali Ansari, thank you very much for giving us your time this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. He is Professor of Modern History at St Andrews University.